So, welcome to Media Blindspot, where we bring you 3 stories from the past week that the mainstream media have forgotten. This week we have Labor is expanding cabinet secrecy with proposed changes to the Freedom of Information Act. The Gold Coast hosted an antisemitism summit with luxury optics while councils scramble for resources. And we have an exclusive from our very own journalist Stephanie Tran, where she talks to a coal mining industry whistleblower about the failure of regulators to prosecute large mining companies. My name is Josh, and for the West Report, let's jump straight into it. This is Media Blindspot. So our first story today is that Labor has introduced a bill to expand cabinet secrecy with the Freedom of Information Act. The FOI amendment bill makes it easier to keep documents secret by lowering the cabinet test from dominant purpose to substantial purpose. Basically, it just changes the criteria of what can be let out or not. That lets agencies withhold more routine briefs and consultant reports, say from PwC, for up to 20 years. And it captures material that quotes or summarises cabinet papers. Now, one of the biggest changes is that it wants to bring in a new fee to lodge a Freedom of Information request, with exemptions when it's involving your own personal information, which makes sense. The bill bans anonymous requests, and the government says that these steps are to deter frivolous and automated requests from bots and offshore actors using ChatGPT. They want to prioritise genuine cases. At least that's what they want to say. So the big one that we want to talk about today is the proposed changes is that you have to pay for a Freedom of Information submission, meaning that you're only allowed to ask for transparency if your wallet can handle it. Now, if we had to pay for every FOI request put in by our team at Michael West Media, we can probably afford to hire some more full-time staffers. So if you want to see our transparency warrior in action, you can check out Rex Patrick's analysis here on the website, Albo's dangerous expansion of cabinet secrecy. Jump over to the website if you want to read more.
With Scott Morrison, at least you knew he was being secret. With Anthony Albanese, it's worse because he likes to portray himself as transparent, but is not.
Floor seats for the Knicks. Couple models going this. They don't even want to pick. Want to lick up, want to...
Now, out of Parliament House and straight up to the intellectual shores of the Gold Coast. Story number 2, the Gold Coast Antisemitism Summit. While Gaza burns, the Australian anti-Semitism envoy staged a luxury summit on the Gold Coast. Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles took the stage at a high-profile Israel lobby event, presented as a serious push against anti-Semitism and framed around councils being the front line against hate. One of the headline outputs was a glossy booklet of so-called anti-Semitic symbols since October 7. Some inclusions are obvious, right? Swastikas, Nazi salutes, chants, but then we just get into the absurd. The classic watermelon makes the list, of course. Yes, because its colours represent the Palestinian flag, and of course that means anti-Semitism for some reason. The report frames it as a coded call to a race Israel. Cultural dress like the keffiyeh also appears, and then you have some really absurd ones like the Time Out signal or Anne Frank or Free Palestine. Resistance is justified, accusing Israel of genocide. All of these are apparently anti-Semitic. But when you lump fruit and fashion in alongside Holocaust inversion and violent slogans, you really dilute the fight against anti-Semitism. The summit also launched the Special Envoy's plan to combat anti-Semitism, a sweeping national framework designed to combat anti-Semitism. Plan lays out 13 areas of action, stuff like tougher hate crime laws, embedding Holocaust education in schools, like that doesn't already happen, monitoring universities with the threat of funding cuts, forcing platforms to remove anti-Semitic content, and even giving the government power to censor broadcasters if it's determined that they present anti-Semitic views. Except our envoy adopts the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which conflates criticism of Israel, the nation, with being anti-Semitic. So much for freedom of speech. Now look, this is only guidelines and suggestions, this is not being put into law, but if you want to check out the deeper critique, check out Wendy Bacon and Stephanie Tran's reports over on our website. So I'm just going to grab your attention really quickly and jump on a quick break here. At Michael West Media, we don't just sit back and react to the headlines. We actually send our journalists out into the field to dig up the stories the mainstream media don't touch. That means boots on the ground, chasing leads, filling in freedom of information requests, and paying producers to bring these investigations to life so that you guys can see them. We are 100% community funded, which means we have no corporate sponsors, we have no big advertisers, we don't even run ads on the website. But that means that it's you guys who we are liable to. So if you'd like to support our journalism, feel free to jump over to patreon.com/thewest report, where you can chuck us a few bucks a month to keep this operation going. Right, thanks for your time, back to the video. Now for our final story, we have a Terracom whistleblower and the coal wage swindle. Meet Justin Williams, a former Terracom executive who stumbled across one of the biggest coal frauds in Australia. Within days of joining the company, he discovered coal quality certificates underpinning export contracts were being doctored, faked. Coal was being made to look cleaner, more valuable, and more energy dense than it really was. Independent reports later confirmed it. In most shipments tested, results have been altered, inflating export values by millions of dollars. Williams believes the fraud stretched into the hundreds of millions. He reported it to the AFP, who allegedly told him that they had enough evidence but would not pursue it because of national interest in protecting the coal industry, I'm assuming. ASIC then took over, which then sidelined Williams and ultimately lost its case. Now the kicker here is that the accused directors walked away with their legal bills of more than $3.6 million paid for by the taxpayer. Williams, the whistleblower, was left out in the cold. Now, it's not just executives gaming this system. At the same time, coal miners themselves were being underpaid through labour hire loopholes. As Michael West Media reported in Same Job, Lame Pay, BHP used sham casual contracts to pay miners tens of thousands less for the exact same work. Together, it paints a picture of an industry where corporate fraud is protected and the workers are exploited, while those who just want to tell the truth are punished. Now you can check out the full story by Stephanie Tran on the website, or our subsequent investigations by Michael West over on michaelwestmedia.com.au. So the nightly news may look the other way, but here at Michael West Media, we do not. The public interest is the story, and it's our job to keep the light on it. And if you value that light, you can help us keep burning by chucking a couple of bucks to us on patreon.com. It makes us able to do these kind of things and bring you guys the news on what's happening. My name is Josh, and for the West Report, thanks for tuning in.